of Gold Canyon at the original Mesa del Oro subdivision. And we're going to have an information-packed meeting. The end objective of what this meeting is about to describe what the community planning process is as mandated by the Arizona revised statutes. We have our elected supervisor, member of the Board of Supervisors. We have county personnel who are responsible for implementation of the Arizona revised statute requirements. The bottom line is that I'm a procedures-oriented person. I feel that the public, in order to be well-informed, needs to know the procedure for involvement. That's the goal of this and other numerous community meetings that we intend to hold with our neighbors. So I'd like to also, Dave Coward, have you scouted out where the restroom facilities are?
No, I didn't, but they're right out this door, second door to the right.
Right out the door to the east? I'm not a tech person. And there are refreshments on the table there on the east side of the venue. There are maps up here in the front that show the location of Gold Canyon and the surrounding land that's under ownership of the Arizona State Trust Land Department. And there are people here from the county who are accessible for one-on-one conversations. We want it in...
Sorry, Roberto, I'm going to click the mics.
Thank you. Can you hear me better now? Thank you. Bottom line is we want to leave plenty of opportunity for the community to interact both with each other and with the county officials who are responsible for developing a community plan to prepare for current and future growth as dictated by the Arizona revised statutes. At each table, you'll find information that we've invited other neighborhood groups to put literature if they wanted, but also we're asking each table to keep in mind that when we open for questions and answers, we'd like each table to have agreed on a major question they want answered. So feel free to relax and plan that after each table has raised their table's question, the floor will be open for questions from individuals directed at people who have the information. So with that, I'd like to open by asking Lester Chow from Pinell County to give us an overview of his responsibilities to ensure the public has adequate opportunity for participating in the development of a community plan.
Good morning, and my name is Lester Chow, like Roberto said, Director of Community Development for Pinell County. We are, Pinal County is the governing agency for the Gold Canyon area. Our role in this plan is to provide the technical support to ASU in their student project of developing a area plan for Gold Canyon. Through the whole process of developing a special area plan, then eventually the zoning or rezoning of an area, there are ample opportunities for public input, feedback as we go through the process. Everything gets notified, so anyone in the community will have the opportunity to provide feedback through this whole process. Through the special area plan, as it develops by ASU, there will be opportunities for neighborhood meetings, outreach programs where we may come back into a setting just like this for you as a community to provide feedback as the plan gets developed. But we are here, our main role is to provide that technical support as the ASU students do this project for their school project. So with that, I just want to assure you that there are ample opportunities for the community to get that input as we go through. It'll be a process for them. It's not a short process, but as we develop the special area plan, I just want to assure you that you will have that opportunity for that. I won't get into detail as to parts of the plan. I think I'll wait till your questions come up, and then we'll tackle the questions specifically for that. So with that, I will wait for your questions as we move further through the program. And for that.
Thank you, Mr. I'd like to ask Supervisor Jeff Surrey to give us a little historical perspective.
Some historical perspective. A lot of people don't know this, but Roberto used to be the voice of Charlie Brown's teacher in the cartoons. With the first microphone anyway, but this microphone is a little better. So, historical perspective, a lot of people are kind of afraid of what this is. So what I can tell you is what it isn't. It is not doing anything to anybody. It's just money that the county and the residents get basically for free. It's kind of like the do-it-yourself network where people come in and they look at this house and they say, what if you did this? What if you did that? Or same way with a home makeover or a beauty makeover. What if you cut your hair this way? What will the county act on it? Maybe, maybe not. And it could be written. It's like if you've ever seen the Superstition Vista concept. There were 3 different concepts of this one with really packed in, roads everywhere, flourishing. Then there was one that was kind of intermediate. Then there was one that was just like almost nothing to the north of 60, very loose. And that's the way this can happen too. This whole process will be fluid, depending on what input they get from these surveys and what information they gather otherwise. Now, the city of Apache Junction was privileged to have this done for them several years ago. And I don't even believe they did surveys. What they did is they had a series of meetings like this, and they had maps. And you've all been to those meetings where you get a pin, and you put it, do you prefer here? And then before you see it, different areas have pins of where people think they would like things to go. And did Apache Junction respond to any of that? I believe part of, if you see how Flatiron Park went in, part of that was from the study of what if you dropped a park right here and did these sidewalks? And a lot of it was kind of pie in the sky. What if we did this bike lane over here and horse? And it would be nice to be able to do that, but will it ever happen? Probably not. And it's the same way with what comes out of this study. Will the county act on it? Maybe they'll act on a piece of it in 6 months. Maybe in 26 years, they may act on part of it if they get anything good out of it. And it's a plan. And plans can be altered. Even if this plan is done, do you have to stick with it? I use a lot of sports comparisons. Remember, the Cardinals drafted Josh Rosen. He was their future, and he was their plan. And then the next year, they got the #1 pick, and they got Kyler Murray. That plan changed, and I think it's paid off. That's a way better plan. Get rid of Josh Rosen. They went with Kyler Murray, and they're now 4-0. So the same thing can happen here. If this plan is kind of, but then something else comes, wow, that's the plan we want, or we want parts of the plan. And I don't think you can plan this whole area in concrete, because you do have land to the south and to the east and to the north, which is a must that everything to the north be absolutely protected. But the county may have to adapt later on to something like that. But this is sure going to give you a lot of good ideas and say, wow, that's so cool. I didn't realize that could happen. The other day I said, it's like, I live in a neighborhood that has a lot of different ways I can go in, and I go different ways every time, and I see something different every time. So when these students get into this class, they may see things right under your nose that you haven't seen before. Why are we not using that little hilltop over there for something? That would be an awesome place to put a little observation deck, or a place to have photos taken. So that's what this whole concept will be. It's just some, like I said, concepts. And it's basically done, I mean, if you were going to pay for something like this, it would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And these folks that are going to be doing it are going to be future leaders and future planners all over the world. So just keep an open mind and give your honest input, and we may come out of this with something pretty amazing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Servant. To put things a little bit into perspective, the planning is part of an overall requirement. We want the decision-making by Gold Canyon residents to be well-informed. To have a well-informed database, you need an academic, focused, professional analysis of data. The cost, Santan Valley had a similar process that they were required to go through. They did at the cost of $300,000. Recent conversations with them have shared with me, we wish we had started off sooner like Gold Canyon is doing. And we, as an unincorporated community, like Santan is unincorporated, depend for all of our essential services on Pinal County government. And so, what are the statute requirements? Let me read them very quickly. It's brief, but it'll inform you of the process that's dictated by law, not by personal opinion, but by law. The purpose of this chapter is to establish the process for preparation and adoption of a comprehensive plan for Pinal County. The comprehensive plan and subsequent plan amendments will ensure the establishment of a land use policy for future development of the county and will further be detailed through specific land use plans, area, community, village, neighborhood, special area. The comprehensive plan establishes, and the other plans make specific, the goals of Pinal County regarding future development of the county, reflecting public consensus on land use issues. The plans are to serve as an official guide for the commission, that is the Planning and Zoning Commission, the Board of Supervisors, and all county officials and agencies for accomplishing coordinated physical development consistent with current and anticipated needs of the county. Such plans constitute official notice to the public of county development recommendations and requirements for specific areas like Gold Canyon. So with that, let me ask our video helper, who says he'll put up the video, but more importantly, the audio will be loud and strong on what ASU students consider as part of the responsibility for community. Keep in mind that Tempe Town Lake, which has become a major water recreation attraction for the entire valley, as of a couple of years ago, had resulted in a $2 billion economic impact on the area. Well, where did that start? It started in a classroom at Arizona State University that converted a dry riverbed into a living recreational water resource. So with that, I'd like to ask for Dr. ASU's presentation to be broadcast for us right now. And it is about 18 minutes long, so relax and take in the information. Matt?
Thank you, Chairman.
Yes.
Thank you, Vice Chairman and members of the board. It's a pleasure to be here and be amongst some of the esteemed colleagues in this great land.
For the record, your name?
My name is Sarbeshwar Praharaj, Dr. Sarbeshwar Praharaj to be exact.
Thank you.
And, you know, Arizona State University, as we all know, is a public research university dedicated to community service. And this is one of such exercises that we are doing in meeting that goal and those objectives that the university has set. And, you know, there are a lot of questions. Why is ASU here? What is their interests? You know, what brings them here? What is their motivation? A lot of questions may arise. So I'm here to clear some of that air and kind of set the stage of what we are looking at and why we are here, okay? So, as it was mentioned, it's a student project, and we are a public research university, and our main resources are our students. And this is a department that I represent, which is called the School of Geographical Sciences and Urban Planning, which is a unique combination of expertise of GI science and planning. And so this has historically been some of the most siloed departments, exercises, as the gentleman was examining, you know, we're talking about architecture. And architecture and planning has been in a silo. And there has been also talk about how do we do geographical science, how do we talk about our lands. And so these departments kind of combines the land management, the GI science, with planning and community development. And if you see what our core expertise, or where do the most research come out from this department, computational spatial science, as I was talking about, lots of geographical scientists, engineers are working to solve some of the critical challenges that we face. Community development and social equity, we always focus on social equity. Whatever we do, wherever we go, we have to see that we listen to all and make a plan that impacts equitably across the communities, regardless of their origin or their economic status or whatever divisions that we have in our society. Place identities and culture, it's very critical to our work. Spatial economic analysis, some of the mentions came out of the Tempe Town Lake. And we continue to do several projects that revitalize communities. How do we renew older areas or plan for newer areas to attract new investment? So that kind of projects we do. Transportation planning, sustainability science, and urban design, they're all part of the core projects and research that comes out from this department. And so this student project sits within a specific course within these larger departments. This department offers about 15 different courses, and this is Master of Urban and Environmental Planning. And so this course, as you can see, is ranked among the top in the nation and worldwide. And this is a graduate course. This is very important to mention here. So our students who will come and work here have already got an advanced undergraduate degree. So they come from architecture or undergraduate in planning, economics, and so they already have a substantial knowledge developed through their undergraduate degree. And this is a place where they experiment and do something which is constructive and applied to the community level. And so if you see what we are trying to see here among the students that will come about, what do we offer and how is it beneficial? We create a living laboratory environment. And this project that we are going to do with your support and cooperation is the perfect example of living laboratory. So often we do teaching in the classroom, students be in the classroom, we talk a lot, and we do a lot of exercise, but that often sits as somewhere in the corner of the house and doesn't go out and impact communities. And so this project and this course is designed in a way that students go out to the community. They study the community and then plan, rather than sitting in the house, sitting with us and talking a lot and doing all this internet search and coming up with plans. And so this is a fundamental difference that we are trying to bring through this course. Interaction with planning leaders. We want our students to come and interact with all sorts of leaders in the community. Who are the first responders, who are the landowners, who are the business leaders, who has an interest and vision to change the community. And that vision needs to be taken into account in the planning. And that is another dimension that we provide to the students through this course. Navigate complexities of current issues is critical. Our world is changing with the pandemic and whatnot, and our cities becoming more complex, urban areas are getting more diverse, and therefore this course is designed in a way that students decipher those complexities. How do they work with multi-interests, multiple organizations, and form a collaboration that can result in an integrated planning? And that is one of the challenges that we are trying to address. And of course, as ASU's core ethos, we are committed to research-led education. Whatever we learn in the community, whatever planning we do, that feeds back into the research and publications and impact that we generate for the community. So, I'm sorry this might not be that readable to the audience, but in general, this Master of Urban and Environmental Planning has 8 core courses over a period of 2 years, and this course, the students who are going to come and study, this course is called Urban Land Use Planning, which I chair. So I chair this course called Urban Land Use Planning, which is kind of a course that introduction of applied planning research, and that kind of students go out and work on a particular project. But it is important to mention here because there are several other courses, and students are not always having that much time to allocate. But we have 4 months of a core course, and therefore the time, and I have 40 of my students, so there's a significant amount of time and expertise that we can delve into this project. So urban land use planning, this course, is actually an overview that students are provided an overview of land use planning concepts, frameworks, institutions, and movements, and that kind of explores the complexities that are saying the processes of planning and the professional skills that is required to go out and plan for the community and manage growth effectively. And there are the kind of learning objectives we have through this course that is also in the website, but this is basically that why planning matters, why is it important for the community and for us, articulate a clear vision of what constitutes a plan, what are the components of a land use plan, and how do we go out and address the economic, environmental, social, and cultural challenges through a land use plan? And how do they go out and plan for a real-world context? As I always repeatedly refer, it's most critical that we plan for a real-world context. And that gives them the professional and capacity. When they pass out, they become a resource for these communities. And of course, the governance and participation, how do we interact with these planning leaders? How do we interact with the complex community groups and organizations? And there are critics or there are supporters. How do we navigate these different comments and suggestions and come up with a plan that impacts and benefits all? So that's the kind of course objectives that we have. So in planning for this project, this course actually have 3 different components, if I can break down to simplify this. One is that the students have discussions and readings in the classroom that provides them with the theories and backgrounds of the course. What is land use plan and all sorts of things like how do we manage urban growth? What are the management processes, policies? Case studies from across the world and of course from the United States. The students are exposed to the best practices, what is available in the market. The second component is really the technical skills. It's not just the theoretical skills. We offer them the GI science capabilities. How do they use software to map certain land use? How do they simulate future growth? How can they project what is going to happen in the community in the future because of the housing, because of the population change and economic change? So that kind of simulation and modeling expertise is provided through this course. And finally, the component, that Gold Canyon Community Plan Student Project. So that theoretical knowledge, the technical expertise will enable students to come and study the community and use softwares and use their knowledge to apply in this real world. So that's drawing up on all those experiences they will have through the course. So if I can see the modules or what is the workflow looks like, we have baseline study that we're going to start beginning January 10. Okay, that's our start. That how do we look at the existing land use? How do we look at the existing demographic and social and economic structure? What is already from the census and other secondary data sources that we have already? Housing, existing infrastructure, transport, water supply conditions that sustain our communities, and of course the environment. I really understand from the engagements that this is an ecologically sensitive land. There are a lot of conservation priorities as well. And so we study all those existing conditions. That is, we call the baseline study. And that data will also be combined with this very interesting and exciting community survey that I think has already gone out. We are working with GCCI, again, seeing the best practices and developing this questionnaire that people can respond to. It is extremely important that our students just don't do the data cleaning and data mapping and then coming out with a plan. What is the community saying? What are the priorities? What are the challenges? And that needs to integrate with the secondary data. So that community survey is a critical piece before we go into setting out the community development goals and objectives. So that is very, very critical because community survey and baseline conditions will lead towards that definition of what is the future goal. And that often is a gap. When we started this project, we thought that, okay, secondary data, we can do it. We always do it. Academics love it. But we need to listen to the community. I think some of the gentlemen earlier were saying, talk about the people. Yes. And so we urge people to come out and participate in the survey. We are doing whatever we can to facilitate that. And so that then leads to us action plans. So we will have action plans for each of these sectors, okay, that we're going to plan for. So the future land use plan basically would be comprising of these land use classifications. So we'll come up with a density, zoning guidelines, with a character plan of how each of these areas can be divided into different areas, not just economy, but environment, housing, public services, community facilities, where those will be located. And we can come up and do that kind of a land use plan. And of course, conservation and recreation, another very important module that we focus on. We're going to see where are the recreational facilities, where are the tourism potential, what are the conservation priorities, all those, how do they reflect in the physical land use map. And of course, the future resource need. We want to calculate what is the infrastructure demand that's going to come in future because of the population change, and how much is it going to cost in terms of resources allocated. Who will do that? What are the kind of institutional change that needs to happen? So all of that would be part of the future land use plan. And so that's the kind of 4 different stages that we are looking at this point. Let's stop moving. Thank you. Yeah, so the last few slides, this is the book that students are going to refer to, very, very important book. Sorry for the academic point, but as I said, the first component is the students understand the theories, understand what are the best practices. And this is the book we are going to refer. So we have 10 copies of this book in library I have ordered. So this is kind of a very comprehensive book that has all those different components, from demography to economy, socio-economic, environmental analysis, community facilities, all the components the student will be exposed to in the first phase of the research. And so what does the timeline look like? This course is just about 3.5 to 4 months, so we don't have a lot of time, but we begin on January 10, and that is why I started engaging well ahead of time. January 10 is still 3.5 months to go, and I started engaging with GCCI and PNL, kind of 3-4 months back. So we are engaging because we need to set up the ground for the students to come and do the research rather than spending a lot of time, coming and exploring and wasting a lot of time. So the ASU Urban Land Use Planning course officially start October 10, and then the baseline analysis is the second stage where we do the primary, the survey data, and also the secondary data analysis, and then we define goals and priorities. And of course, the proposals, the land use plan that meet the community development goals and objectives, and the ASU students, not me, ASU students would come and participate and present to the community. And that's what excites me. As professors, we do a lot of research, but how can the students come and present to the community leaders? How can they get feedback and they become the next generation leaders? And so then we provide a final report to you, highlighting what we have found, what are the observations, and how we can go ahead, okay? And this is the kind of final report that we're going to conclude the study. These are some of the resource requirements that I'm continuously working. Before the students start their course, I'm kind of trying to get all sorts of background data sets, so that sets the stage for the students to come and apply their skills rather than they go out and do this. So we need a lot of support. We have got a lot of support, and we continue to engage and access these data sets to really leverage some of the existing information. And we don't want to go there and reinvent the wheel. There's already a lot of resource out there, and we have to leverage those resources. And so, as I was saying, ASU is a comprehensive research university. I sit as the senior global features scientist in this laboratory. This is kind of one of its initiative that is targeting the UN development goals and community development goals worldwide. So we have about 150 leading researchers in this lab, which is called the Julie Ann Global Futures Laboratory, again, from generous funding. And so I have access to these great resources, these great faculties and researchers who will come and inform students how they can move ahead. It's not just me, but a whole, and another entity where I'm the associate director, which is looking at resilience of communities. We're working a lot through this in building economic resilience dashboard, temperature and heat analysis, to the evictions. We're working with the micro-justice courts to leverage their data and see what evictions going to look like in the next month or couple of months. We're continuously working on these resiliency issues. So the students will be also getting a lot of resources from these centers where people are sitting there with a lot of data, a lot of expertise to bring them up to speed of where we need to go and where are the skills to do this. This is something that I just want to highlight because there are members of the community, if somebody wants to come. So this is a fellowship that we provide. I sit as a chair of this center. We provide some grants so that community members can also come and be part of our community. They can work on their own projects, but they will get all of our expertise from students to the professors, and there are tremendous opportunity to co-work with other leaders. So we have people from MAG, people from Center for the Future of Arizona, people from the Valley of the Sun United Ways, who are our fellows, who are working with us on several challenges that they face. And so this is something, an opportunity that you might also like to share among your groups. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you hear me? You cannot?
Go ahead and try it now, Roberto.
Hello? I know my eyesight is a problem. Thank you. At 89 years, I'm glad I can stand up. But Dr. Paharaj had intended to be here, but his wife is expecting a baby at any time now. So we recognize family obligations come first, at least in our book. So appreciate your patience during that. Next, I'm going to ask our Vice President of Gold Canyon Community Inc., Maxine Brown, to come forward and give you a quick run through of the timeline for the process. Let me point out that Maxine is a person who is very competent to be involved in the projects we're undertaking. She's got some 30 plus years of experience in planning. She was a town manager and planner for several southeastern counties in Arizona. She worked directly with 17 mayors in central Arizona as regional planning person. So, Maxine, please.
Thank you, Roberta, and thank you everyone for being here this morning for our community meeting. It's important that everyone in Gold Canyon participate in this so that we have a plan that represents all of us. This process began approximately a year and a half ago with an idea from one of our Gold Canyon Community Inc. committees. We are excited that the survey has been reviewed by so many and is now out to the community members to complete the survey. The survey is due back to us on October 22nd. All items on the survey are part of planning elements for developing a vision for the Gold Canyon Plan. The survey is a tool to gather information from residents in Gold Canyon for a basic outline of community feelings. Once the surveys are in, information will be compiled and analyzed. We anticipate the results will be presented at a community meeting in the first part of December. At the community meetings, the public will be able to review the survey results, comment, and have questions answered. It's important that we have comments throughout the process. We anticipate the information will be sent to ASU by December 15th, with the ASU graduate students in urban and environmental planning receiving the compiled surveys by January 10th. ASU students will work on the Gold Canyon vision from January to April of 2022, resulting in a proposed plan. During the same time frame, in February through April of 2022, community meetings will be held with the public and ASU students. Students will present their findings, what they've done for the project to date, and answer questions from the public. Phase 1 of the process will go from April through May of 2022 and will review the plan vision from the ASU report. Additional community meetings and focus groups will continue into the next phase of the planning process. A steering committee will be appointed from the people and leadership of Gold Canyon and will guide the process and help with the process. By fall of 2022, we look forward to having a consolidated community vision. Many of the meetings will overlap. The reason for this is so that we can get timely comments throughout the process. All planning processes develop and change over time. It's important that we hear from each one of you. All the meetings, all of our community meetings will be posted. They'll all be open to the public. And we will have public input and comments on every agenda because we need to hear from you for it to be a true Gold Canyon vision. This will be a multi-year, transparent effort, and we hope there will be a great deal of interest and input. If you're interested to serve on any of the focus groups or on the steering committee, please let us know. We are an all-volunteer group and we'd love to hear from you. Again, I want to repeat what was said before. These plans usually cost a community thousands and thousands of dollars, which we couldn't afford in this area. So it's important that we go and give input to this process so we have a good vision and a good proposed plan at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Maxine. Next, I'll ask James Daniels to come forward. He's the head of our county's communications department.
Thank you, Roberto, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for welcoming us here into your community on what is a lovely day. Feels like fall's finally here, and as someone who's just lived through their 10th consecutive summer here, it doesn't seem to get much easier. But I should just take a minute to introduce the other county staff who are here. We've met Lester Chow, who's Director of our Community Development. Steve Abraham is the Planning Manager within Community Development. Himanshu Patel is one of our Deputy County Managers here. And Connie Van Driel, if you haven't met her, works with Supervisor Serdius as District Administrator. So as Roberto said, I'm the Communications and Marketing Director for the county. I spent 7 years at ASU in their marketing department prior to my role here in the county. And I should just, part of my role there in the marketing department was actually changing the perception of ASU. I don't know how many Sun Devils we have here, but obviously there was, historically, and it's still even now, when I was looking to type in, I don't know how many people know, like ASU is #1 in innovation now for 7 years straight since that began. But when I started to type in the pound sign and number one in innovation comes up first, but the second one still is #1 party school. So I think it's important to recognize that over the last 20 years, I think, and especially since Michael Crow came into the university, they really have made great strides, and they do have some fantastic schools, and so they really are a great partner for Pinell County and GCCI through this project. We will work with the professor and his team throughout this entire process to find points at which to keep, pertinent points at which to keep everyone up to date. Hopefully everybody saw the video we made with Harold Christ and some of our other videos. We have a full-time videographer on staff since the start of this year. So that's a great tool for us to communicate to you guys and the entire community about how the project's going in usually 4 or 5 easy minutes. Otherwise, we obviously use social media a lot to communicate. We have a good next door presence. I hope everybody gets to see our next door communication. And our newsletters, email newsletters that we send out every weekend. So everyone who signed up should have got one this morning. We also send out board meeting recaps after board meetings. So that's another way to kind of keep informed with the decisions that our supervisors are making and things that are happening around the county. If anyone is not signed up, I've put some of these over with the information. It's got a QR code here. You simply open the camera on your phone, scan the QR code. It offers you to open a window in Safari. You open that, and then it will bring up a form there which you can fill in and sign up for our newsletters. So the last thing I'll say, I know everyone probably has relatives all over the country. We actually have an open position in our social media department. It's actually going to be called a citizen engagement manager. So we're looking for somebody with good social media experience who wants to take that step into the next level. There's going to be some leadership opportunities. It's going to have strategic oversight of our 311 contact center. So the reason I bring this up is we know how many people want to come to Arizona and how many people are coming to Arizona. So if you've got relatives who are fed up with California or New York or such, then go onto our county jobs website and look for the citizen engagement manager role. We'd like to get that filled to improve our communications even more. So that's it. I think I'll wrap it up there. But I'm always contactable. You can find my info on the county website. I've got business cards here. Anyone's always welcome to reach out to me with ideas, or if we're not doing something right, or if we can, improve. We want to provide the best communications that we can do, both to Gold Canyon and the entire Pinal County community. So thanks again, and I look forward to answering any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. The crowd's loosening up here with applause and all. That's upbeat here. People ask, well, how did we end up with this group of neighbors of Gold Canyon stepping forward and being audacious enough to suggest that we have to do a better job at managing our growth? Well, it started in my neighborhood, Sleepy Hollow Trail. We're experiencing traffic congestion by the addition of some 700 new homes being built at Peralta Canyon, just south of Sleepy Hollow. And the plan was, how are they going to enter and exit Peralta Canyon? Well, they can enter and exit through Sleepy Hollow Trail. Sleepy Hollow Trail is a neighborhood that already has any number of arterial roads leading into it and already congested. So a group of us neighbors said, let's try to do something about this. So we met in my living room 2 years ago, and we decided we need to suggest to our county that they need to do a better job of providing for everybody's safety. I'm a native Arizonan. I'm used to fires, but I dare say most of you are probably not native Arizonans and not used to seeing wildfires coming to the edge of our community as we've seen. Well, fortunately, our then elected supervisor, Todd House, agreed to meet with a few neighbors. And he said, so get a few neighbors together and we'll come and talk. Well, I invited a few neighbors, and we ended up at the Methodist Church with over 100 close neighbors. And that was at the request of us Sleepy Hollow residents. And I dare say that it led to a solution of an emergency gate that would be available for the safe exit of our neighbors at Peralta Canyon. However, the problem isn't resolved yet, because there is a much safer, quicker, shorter exit that can be put to exit from the Chevelon Street Road area of Peralta Canyon, less than a quarter of a mile US 60. So that's how then we attracted other issues being brought to us. How about that county owned land under the power lines? There are people gathering there and disturbing the rest of the neighborhood. So again, we were audacious enough, daring enough, intrusive intrusive enough to contact the county. And yes, the county responding as it should to constituents resolved that issue. Clearly, there was a need for civic involvement by our neighbors. Hence, the birth of Gold Canyon Community Incorporated, made up of 9 board of directors from both the private and the public sector. People who have been involved in the community. And so let me read their names to you so that you'll know who to go to complain or compliment or suggest matters that need to be resolved. Dave Howard, standing over there, is our treasurer. He's lived here 15 years. He comes out of the engineering field and the teaching profession. He's been involved alongside of yours truly in helping to keep open our Peralta Trail Elementary School when that was being threatened with closure. But again, we nosy neighbors got involved. And another task that has been resolved. Charlie Goff, sitting at this table, resident for 9 years, president of the Salt Superstition Area Land Trust Board of Directors, chairman of our Conservation Committee. Steve Nauer, who isn't here, he's away right now, chair of our Strategic Planning Committee, 10-year resident, comes out of the private sector. Dick Richards, sitting over here in yellow, 20-year resident, one of those intrusive Sleepy Hollow neighbors who joined other neighbors to resolve issues. Geological engineering background, avocation of street ministry. Thank you for your help. Sandy Smith, who can't be here, she's taking care of a recovering husband who's had a very serious health challenge. She's another one of our board of directors. She's a 32-year resident. She's a co-founder of Canal Partnership. She is a former president and CEO of that Canal Partnership. She's owned various small businesses. That's where I first met her at Apache Junction some 20-some years ago. But also served as a member of the County Board of Supervisors. Another committed, civic-minded resident. Jerry Stevenson, who can't be here, 20 or 10-year resident, Mountain Brook area, comes out of the private sector. He's chair of our Transportation Safety Committee, comes out of the IT industry of PepsiCo, Wells Fargo, banking firms both in the US and Canada. Matthew Bartola, thank you, raise your hand there. He's the one responsible for the poor video quality here. He controls the sound. Thank you very much, Matt. He's the most recent resident of Gold Canyon here, almost a year now. He and his wife are expecting the first child. Comes out of the private sector, an entrepreneur. Thank you again for your work in the Lutheran social services field, helping mentor refugees seeking help in our country. Thank you, Matt. And yours truly. I'm a native Arizonan, born and raised 45 miles east of here in Miami. I've been involved in Arizona's public life my entire life. I worked in the Congress for 24 years with Arizona Congressman Stuart Udall, George Center, and 2 other members of Congress from the state of New Jersey. I also worked in the private sector 12 years as Vice President for Government Affairs of Homestake Mining Company, the oldest, largest gold mining producer at the time that I joined them. Been active here helping the Apache Junction Unified School District try to pass school bonds, budget overrides. Unfortunately, haven't succeeded. So these are your neighbors who have banded together to try to help create an even better gold canyon. And so we'd like to next move to the tables, and we'll start from this first table here. If you could, whoever wants to stand up and ask the first question. Just a minute. Okay, you want to give a little break. That's what I'm getting a signal here. See, this is how we help each other. We signal each other. So, okay, a little break right now, a rest break, and get acquainted with your neighbors, discuss what concerns you'd like to surface in our discussion. But remember, the time is yours. And so we will have each table ask a question, and then we will open it up to the entire floor so that any one individual can ask whatever question you wish to ask, and we will stay here as long as necessary to accommodate your questions. Am I doing okay there, Mr. Howard? Was that the plan? Okay, so about 5 minutes, chit chat, come up with your question.
Okay, so I'll be going around table to table to allow everybody to have the chance to ask their question. And if you don't mind, I'd like to start here. So when speaking, just state your name and go ahead and get right into your question.
Okay, my name is Roberta Russell. I've lived here for 15 years. I live in a home in, I own a home in Mountain Brook. We have a 3-part question, and it is, why is the survey open to those who work in Gold Canyon and live elsewhere? Why can visitors who do not own property in Gold Canyon or run a business in Gold Canyon participate in this survey? And why is the survey being conducted now when winter homeowners have not yet returned to Gold Canyon? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Let's see. Mr. Coward, would you please try to respond?
Gladly. Okay, the first question I think is, why are non-residents asking for in the survey? Well, for one is those people who identify themselves as not living here, they make that choice on the survey, correct? So it's my understanding that we can filter those out, so we can separate those out, okay? But we feel that it's important, if people are coming to our community, we probably want to know what they feel about the community. They may have some valid points, but we can separate the residents from the non-residents. So we can look at, but I think that's important data to know. If people are coming to here to shop and to visit, I think our local businesses would want to know some of that information. So that's the reason for that question.
The next one is, why can people who do not own property, well, I suppose that's your same answer.
Yeah. Oh, you were talking about the winter visitors who are not here right now. Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry. Big difference, yeah. But we would like to know if we have visitors in the winter, you know, what they feel about it too. And again, if they say they're non-residents, we can separate that out. However, but the, one of the reasons why we did it now is two reasons. One is we want to get the data to the university in enough time so they can integrate it into their study. So we had a little time crunch that way. Another reason is we're putting this out virtually. So a lot of the people who don't live here now, we're hoping that they're looking at their HOA Facebook page, they're looking at Nextdoor. We've asked a lot of organizations to send the survey out to their members, so hopefully they'll get the kind of message out there that we can. But as we go through the study, we're probably going to be doing more surveys as we go along, so we can probably pick up more of that. And again, as Maxine said, we're going to have community meetings along the way and focus groups from January through April, hopefully when they're here. So we feel that we'll get adequate feedback from people, even if they're not here with them. So you know, when is there a perfect time? We don't know. But sure.
Okay, first off, perhaps more time or thought could have been put into everything and into the survey, whatever. And the survey done over the winter months when we have a full complement of residents here, and possibly the work from ASU would have had to be deferred to the fall semester of 2022. But they may have had more valid and greater data to work with if it had been pushed off to the fall semester of 2022.
Well, we don't control ASU's schedule, so we have to deal with what we have.
Well,
so.
I mean,
But
have they been approached? Could you push us off to another semester?
No, it's already in place. It's already going forward. So we have the ASU schedule is the ASU schedule.
So we're allowing them to drive the process.
They're helping us for free to do this project.
And they'd probably be happy to help us next year too, because it's part of their curriculum. Okay, second question is, or second statement is, before my 15 years living here permanently, I was a snowbird for 5 years. And I know it is very hard when you're living someplace else, you have a house, as concerned as you may be about the Gold Canyon community or where you live for 6 months of the year, that's really not where your mindset is. And I know it's very hard to get people's full attention when they are living elsewhere and are not immersed in the community. So I truly believe that we would get much better. It's very hard to depend on email, et cetera,
But as mentioned before, there's going to be plenty of time for people to get feedback going through the process. Okay.
not at the time.
So I can give a different perspective on some of those questions. This entire project is not about a survey. A survey is just one little part of it. They did the one in Apache Junction, it wasn't even a survey. So that's only going to be what, maybe 50% of their input. Why would you ask people that work here and don't live here? Coming from city government, we do feasibility studies and leakage studies regarding business. For instance, your Bashas' is struggling. The whole corporation of Bashas' is not doing well. It just sold. What if Bashas' closes? They can have this information from retailers and merchants and business of maybe a different store would work out here. Maybe what store would work. That's why you would want the business owners and people that work here, period, or only, because it gives you a different perspective on what could go. You know, what could go on the south side of 60. Maybe a Home Depot comes out someday. So that's why they would do studies like this. You know, there are 6 gas pumps in this whole town. I just was there this morning. So is another gas station needed? So that's why you would look at these other perspectives.
Thank you. The next.
From this table?
Going back to this state legislature that required two sides of the thing about when it was rezoned economic, it means they didn't have to do water studies, and if they had, if it was residential, they would have to prove water, prove the water out. I've heard both sides of the issues, so my question is, we keep talking about we want to change this stuff so we don't have all 40,000 homes out there, but are they restricted by water? And would that change? Would those restrictions change if we change that to commercial?
Yes. So with residential, they have the certificate of assured water supply for that. When they go into the zoning stage, or if they change that to commercial, they would have to have those also. So they'd have to prove that they do have the water allocated for that type of development.
Would you have to prove that
Can you hold and let everybody hear?
Would they have to have the same proof if it was zoned for economic as opposed to homes?
Yes, they would for commercial or economic. Yes.
Because there can be a proof of water either way.
Yes, they would have that certificate of assured water supply. Correct.
Okay.
All right, from this table? Any questions? All right. You are nominated.
Our table would like to know, how will the county through this process be able to be more proactive with the planning of the state and that surrounds Gold Canyon area? That is my question, isn't it?
No, just keep that over there.
Okay.
How will be more involved with this state land? As state, we're working with state land as they try to develop or auction off their property. We work with them, and they, in what they vision, how they want that development. So we keep involved, and I don't know the specifics, and it is your specific question, but do you want to?
Okay, so just to add to that, just to remember, I'm Steve Abraham, I'm planning manager, and one of the ways to keep involved and be proactive with the state land department is to complete visioning processes like the one we're doing right now. So that becomes part of the county policy, it becomes part of the land development goals. That is then forwarded to the state land department, and as part of their overall planning efforts, they take into account what is accomplished as part of the goals, and they're identified through this entire planning process.
And I guess to expand on that, this area plan is not just solely restricted to Gold Canyon. It's the surrounding areas around it. So, like Steve said, that state land will be part of the plan of what is visioned for this area.
Okay.
My name is Phil Tremonti, and I live off of Don Dowland. My real question is, I agree that we as a community must embrace the changes that are going to take place. My concern is that the old saying is that you eat an elephant one bite at a time. And before you decide where you want to take that bite, you got to understand the design and functions of that body so you can decide where you want to take that bite. In this particular case, it seems like we're designing an ear, doing a study of Gold Canyon, without having a full understanding of what the Pinell County is and how we fit into it. Is there a study out that we can actually be part of so we can understand how we fit into the overall plan of the development of the county?
So yes, the county does have a plan right now. We do have our comprehensive plan that covers this area, and that will be part of what is looked at by ASU, the comp plan as it exists today, the wishes of the community and the current zoning. So there is a plan for this area, and that will be part of the consideration as they go through this study.
I guess we should understand
Can you speak into the microphone?
So the
so they can hear you?
Pinal County comprehensive plan is just a real high-level vision of the type of categories or designations of land use for certain areas. It is available online, and you can see the different designations for a certain area, Gold Canyon being one of them.
To answer your question, it wasn't clear on the professor's presentation, but part of their study is they are going to be looking at all the existing plans around here, and there's whole layers of different plans. So that's going to be part of their study, and we've been working with them in the past 4 or 5 months, populating a database with all that information. So when the students start into it, they're going to be looking at all those available studies and plans that are already out there to kind of mix everything together. So I think that's going to be part of the process, like Mr. Chow said, that there are plans out there, and we have to fit within that. And in fact, Supervisor Surrey, we had a meeting last week looking at overall plan for all of his district, and he invited a lot of people in, and he actually invited the professor to sit in on that, and it was an eye-opener to him, because he said, wow, there's a lot going on in here, and so he's aware, and he'll bring that to his study as well. So it's a puzzle. Everything has to fit together, and they're aware of that, and that's part of the study.
Hi, my name is Rich Kemp. We've lived here for 26 years. We used to live in Mesa Del Oro. We live in Mountain Brook now. We've been very in the superstition area, land trust. The Gold Canyon Community Inc. I've never heard of. Maybe I had it a mistake. I'll get an explanation of the origin. Something's been done. It would have been good if that were probably the first thing we were talking about. Anybody like me didn't really know who you were. My phone just quit. I had the page open on your website, listing your top priorities, and as best I can remember, wilderness and preservation areas like that, responsible development, and safety and transportation. I also saw something on there which I just glanced at, and I can't go back and look at it now because my phone, about the county having formally at some level recognized the organization and made some sort of commitment in terms of working with and supporting. Maybe someone can tell us more about that.
Yes, who we are, as I said earlier this morning, we were longtime residents, some of us who have been working. I myself am a former president of Adobe, probably one of the oldest members of Adobe, very actively engaged in every single issue that this community confronted, from traffic lights, from removal of cattle guard, from the need to identify other people and try to engage them, involving, for example, appearing before a public hearing of military National Guard plans, removal of the idea of a high radio tower, virtually every one of those issues, the odor problem in Mountain Brook from the sewer plant there, all of those are issues that I personally have been involved in over the last 28 years that I've lived here. And so the creation of Gold Canyon Community Inc. was simply a development of putting some structure to some of us who as individuals had been civically engaged with the county. we approached the county, and Todd House, the previous supervisor, recognized that, yes, he would listen to our concerns. And they weren't concerns only of a handful of neighbors. We were raising concerns for the entire region. We hold open meetings, we publicize the meetings, and I'm sorry you weren't aware of our existence, but it reminds me of a cautionary note by the late long-serving Senator Carl Hayden, who served Arizona as a territorial sheriff, then served in the Congress as a member of the House and a member of the Senate for probably the longest in the history of our country. But he had a saying when he met new members of Congress: you know, there are show horses and there are work horses. So sometimes you're aware of show horses, may not necessarily be aware of work horses. Hopefully, we will continue to serve as we have, and hopefully we will get response to our encouragement, urging everybody. You don't have to join our nonprofit organization. Get involved with the county. That's where the action is. It's like I said earlier, Carl, for example, Woody Allen said, you know, the world is run by those who show up. I encourage everyone, please show up, because our world is run by Pinal County.
I had a note here, Roberto, from somebody at the table. Why is Adobe against cocaine community?
I'm sorry, but
Why is Adobe?
No, I heard your question, but I am not in a position to respond for them. If there's anybody else here from Adobe, they'll be welcome hearing from you. Anybody? Well, move on to a construction of another question.
Hi, I'm Arlen Trout, and I've lived out here on the back of Kings Ranch Ridge for 50 years, and I don't know hardly any of you folks. And that might be something that we need to discuss. I've been here for 50 years, long before Sandy Smith got here, and if you forget your history, you'll lose your future. So if y'all ever have any questions about reality in Kings Ranch or what happened here before it turned into Gold King, please let me know. And you can filter those questions through Matt here. He's a very trustworthy guy, and I like him a lot.
Thank you. I did not pay him to say that. That's efficiency.
Chief, I've lived out here for 3 years. Mesa, East Mesa, Patton Junction for 40 years. We had some confusion when you were reading the Arizona revised statutes about a community must have a plan, and then Supervisor Survey was saying it's just a plan. We can change the plan anytime. Can we get some more clarification on that?
Well, I can clarify part of it. Yes, the public has a right to change its statutes. It even has a right to change its constitution. And that's what we're about here. We're about explaining a process whereby you can make a difference in what constitutes the comprehensive plan. And as you heard, there is a comprehensive plan in place because it's mandated by the Arizona revised statutes. So we encourage people, in other words, I always find myself trying to restrain myself from being a cheerleader of get involved, because that's what builds community, Mr. Trout. Getting involved with your neighbors as you have. I, as a native Arizonan, have been, since I was a kid, I was out there leafleting in support of Miami town ordinances. So I've been a busybody my whole life, not always welcome, but I think, yeah, and so it's a way of building community. So how about the next table?
Hi, my name is Courtney Wax, and my husband and I have been out here for about 2 years. We're in the phase 1 of Proper Canyon, and we've lived out in the East Mesa Apache Junction area for over 40 years. And I just would like to state one question. I hope we learn from what other towns have done. When we talk about Tempe Town Lake, when we talk about Santan and Mesa, the growth that has come with that, and the crime that has come with that, and lack of infrastructure with that as well, that we don't make the same mistakes out here, that maybe we become something that people look forward to being here. Tempe, their crime rate has gone up over 20% since the inception of Tempe Town Lake. We don't want to see that out here. I'm sure nobody would like to see that out here. But as we're talking about the vision for this area, what does Pinal County, can you give us a summary of what you're looking for out here in the Gold Canyon area, and what kinds of businesses you're trying to attract? I know we're in a step process of starting this, but do you have an idea already of what you're looking at?
Again, I go back to the county right now has a comprehensive plan, and Gold Canyon is one of the areas. There are existing zoning classifications for each of the parcels out in the Gold Canyon area. As far as what we want for the future, I mean, that's what our comp plan kind of covers. And then to go back and answer the previous table, this question is, yes, there is a comp plan. A comp plan is able to be changed, but that goes through a public process also. So yes, there is a comp plan, it can be changed. But as far as the vision for what we see, I would refer you to what our comp plan shows as far as land designations and what categories. And in each of those categories, there's certain zoning classifications that could be in those areas. So there's a variety of uses that can be done. Through this process with ASU, I think we can clarify or make that a little bit more specific to what the Gold Canyon area wants.
We had a comment, I think, on that question right here.
My name is Glenn Degas. I live in Untitled Chapter, and I have a couple things to say. One is I'm an Adobe member, and I'm just an Adobe member, so I don't really have the capacity to speak for Adobe. I'm also on the board of the newly formed Gold Canyon Alliance, and speaking as a person in both of those positions, I've heard a few things. And it isn't that Adobe, again, you're listening to me, not Board of Adobe. But from what I've heard, it isn't that Adobe objects to GCCI. It's on issues-based agreement versus disagreement. And the Alliance isn't opposed to GCCI. We were formed because we had a difference on the position of the state land trust sale. GCCI seemed to be in support of it, so we formed to voice our objections and questions and reservations about it. It isn't that we're against the organization. It's an issue-based, do we agree on this issue or not on this issue? It isn't a personality thing as far as I'm concerned. My question for the county and for those planning, I've been hearing a lot about the concept of incorporation for Gold Canyon, and now we have this study, and for the study and for the concept of incorporation and for the county, is Entrada del Oro considered part of Gold Canyon? Because I hear very conflicting things from different sources as, you know, Gold Canyon ends at Peralta. So then a lot of this discussion is relative to us or not. Now the state plan trust was very relevant to us because it's right in between Peralta and us, so that was very relevant to us. In terms of incorporation or in terms of planning county planning, sorry, got that backwards, verbally dyslexic, are we considered part of this process in the Gold Canyon area?
May I try to answer a couple of your points first? You said you're not speaking on behalf of anybody else, but your word as an individual, you expressed that it seemed that GCCI was in support of the land trust amendment. Well, we never took a position on the major amendment. What GCCI was doing was publicizing the process of the county being required by the law, by Arizona revised statutes, to consider a major amendment only at certain periods of the calendar. This year was a time that was dictated by Arizona revised statutes. And there was a lot of people's opinions being expressed about what they thought GCCI was about. We never took a position other than the position that the public needed to know the process required to approve a major land trust. And I'm not intending to create a debate about this, but simply clarifying what our GCCI position was. But I assume you want to respond to that.
And you can certainly clarify, at the Alliance formation meeting with the public, you stood up and, to my ears, expressed support of what was going on and that we should all step back and let the process unfold as it was going to unfold. And if you're speaking just for you and not for GCCI, maybe that was my misunderstanding, but it was also a misunderstanding of a lot of other people.
No, well, let me clarify. What I heard and what you heard is on a recording, and I suggest that's the best source of determining whether the words expressed and the interpretation of what was heard are the same. I repeat that what we support and continue to support is the process, sir.
Then I support that effort.
Thank you. Welcome.
Absolutely.
Welcome.
And then the Entrada del Oro question?
The Entrada del Oro, if you look at the U.S. Census, I think that's the best credible source. Entrada del Oro's figures, are they included in the Gold Canyon census or not?
Same zip code, right?
I'm sorry?
Same zip code, right?
85118.
Yes, it's, so the answer is yes, Entrada del Oro. And again, my busybodiness, I've been involved in criticizing the census since the census of 1960. I met with the U.S. Census Bureau in Maryland, is where their office is, because I felt that their data gathering was faulty then, and it continues to be faulty now. But that doesn't mean it isn't credible information. It's the best information that they can put together. And I always believe, don't let the good be the victim of the perfect.
So I think it's
Yes, we're open now for anybody, any questions behind you, Matt.
you have questions or comments?
Yes, my name is Phil Todd, and I've been a resident of this area since '99. I just want you all to stop back and take a look at what's happening in the area, and I want to give you some very specifics. We know that D.R. Horton bought a bunch of land, some 2,300 acres, and they have 2 commercial areas designated supposedly in that land. I've taken it upon myself and tried to find out some information about how big their land is going to be and where it's going to be located by talking to Apache Junction City Councilman. As of right now, at least I have not been able to find out anything. I have a very personal issue that I am trying to live with. I am sick and tired of going to Maricopa County and giving them the sales tax. This county needs to use the sales tax of our money to improve our county and to hopefully reduce our property taxes. Okay? So I took it upon myself to contact Menard's hardware store for people that live in Wisconsin and other areas. I happen to be in a store in Springfield, Missouri. I was very impressed with that store. I cannot buy a 2x4 in this area unless I go to Home Depot and give them the sales tax. I tried to get Quick Trip to come and put in a gas station in Gold Canyon. These are things that we need. Got hung up on one word on the state trust me. One simple word drove people off the edge, and that word was employment. However, nobody has been able to give me a list of what you are wanting. I have to drive my wife down the 202 to Val Vista to go to a doctor's complex of single-story buildings where all these different doctors are. We're getting into a lot of people out here. We're going to have more people out here. What do we really want? I just heard, because I asked the question, Costco is building a warehouse in Santan. Why isn't it coming to the commercial area of D.R. Horton in Ironwood? Maybe you all enjoy Tuesday or Thursday morning at 9 o'clock because you're older and you can get in between 9 and 10 o'clock. I don't enjoy that. And I brought up the question here. I do not understand how Maricopa County put the streets in for Elliott and for Ray, and now there's people coming and buying that land and putting up buildings. We want to talk about the size of the buildings, but they're growing the business. We are years away from allowing people to do that.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Pond. Yeah, want to open the floor for questions? Questions, please.
Hi, I'm Maxine.
And Maxine, no rhetorical questions.
Thank you. I've been a resident here for 21 years, and before that I lived in Queen Valley. When I was reading people coming in, one of the questions was, how do we get the survey? So could you address exactly where they can go and get the survey? And then the second thing that I heard was that we needed to do more information out about when our meetings were, so that's something we can look at too in the future meetings. Thank you.
Okay, where to get the survey? One, the county just gave, there's a, I think, James, you talked about it. There is a little handout over there with one of those, what do they call it?
QR code.
QR code. QR code. You just have to point your phone at it, and it'll bring up the survey. You can also go to our website. It's gccIncaz.org, And in fact, just last night, I put in a special tab in the menus for the ASU study. So you can go to there and you can also find that same code as well as the URL for the thing too. So it's available on our website. It's also available on that handout as well. What was the other question?
They just wanted to be sure that more information went out about these important meetings we're having. So we'll do that too, I'm sure.
Yeah, and again, we have on our mailing list right now, we have like 270 people. And if you'd like to know about our monthly meetings, I encourage you to sign up for our email list, which we put out a newsletter every month that identifies when we have a meeting. And we also videotape all our meetings right now are on Zoom, so we have those available. Those are all also on our website. And to sign up for the email list, that's also on our website. So I hope that helps. Yeah, it's on that handout that's on your table as well. So
Dave, there was just one question to clarify. So on this QR code, it mentions to sign up for the newsletter. Does this take you directly to a link for the survey itself?
No. But I do have a QR code here for the survey, so if anybody here actually wants to access the survey, you can come see me, I can text it to you, or you can just scan it.
So that one's for...
The QR code on these little papers is to sign up for our newsletter.
Oh, okay. I misspoke.
No, it's okay. But yeah, I do have the actual specific one here for the survey if anyone needs it.
And that QR code is on our website as well.
Okay, and as Dave says, it's on the GCCI website.
Could we spread the
Hi, my name is Jody Stoots. I'm actually a new committee that just started here in Gold Canyon. I'm the president of the Chamber of Commerce. We're very excited and we're just here to actually support and represent the businesses because there's a lot of support for residences. There's many committees you can go to. My focus and the people that are working with me will be for the businesses. My question is there exact dates that you have? I'm looking on here and I'm just seeing the month that the survey will actually be conducted. Do you have cutoff dates so that I personally know so I can do my job in reaching out and helping reach out to as many people to be able to participate in this?
Our timeline is to collect the survey data this month in October, and then start doing the analysis of that in November, so we can hand it off to ASU in early December. So that's kind of our time frame. So we have the month of October. We hope to.
So 3 weeks. So it's 3 weeks then. So basically the end of the month.
Right. Okay. It went out just early this week.
Right.
We've already got close to 500 respondents so far, so that's pretty good actually. So
yeah.
So we got the rest of the month to do that, and then we got to crunch the numbers and do all the analysis.
Well, I know me personally, just an idea of it. My family has ran the Arizona RV resort since '97. I'm actually the third generation that's moving in to step up and run that, so family ahead of me can start retiring. We actually have access. We have about over 900 residents when we're at full time. And they are coming in earlier this year. A lot of them are really happy to get out of Canada because they weren't able to last year because of COVID. So we're seeing a lot of them sooner. But we also have access to quite a few addresses, phone numbers, emails. So my suggestion would be if you are in a position in any type of an HOA or you know someone, get with those people and give them the intuitive idea that if they have contact, maybe put some people together and start making phone calls if these people don't have emails and try to put as many of them out because it with 3 weeks, I feel like the public that's not here is kind of getting 3 weeks, and we don't have everybody back. So it's just an idea that if you feel that that's unfair, then, you know, get with some of these organizations that are here and see if you can't help to actually make phone calls to some of these people, because some of them don't do email. So that, you know, I know my part, I will. I have over 900 people that I personally can contact in a very effective way.
I was just going to say, we can provide you some posters with the QR code. You can put in businesses around the community. And
That would be great. I would love it.
Point of order.
Excuse me over here.
I recall you saying that the surveys were due October 22nd. That leaves 2 weeks.
Well, James, how much time do we actually have? How much time are we going to need for the analysis, you feel?
I mean, the analysis is really done by ASU as part of their course, so I mean...
No, but the data, we'd like to look at the data and then so we can get some, we want to feedback some results to the community before we hand it on, so we can run it into November?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. We're flexible on that, yeah.
With the controversy we had over the last few months over the proposed major, the state land proposed major comprehensive plan amendment, I think the basic question is that coming through? Yeah. With the controversy over the state land, the proposed major comprehensive plan by the state land department, which has since, of course, been withdrawn. I think an underlying question that relates to a lot of the reactions is, can Arizona State Trust land be conserved? And if so, how?
You asked a question, I think you are probably as authoritative as yours for an answer. Don't set me up, please.
It wasn't intended as a setup, but it is, I think, a very important underlying question. And in fact, if I may go to that map up in the corner, excuse me.
Contact Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos. Have them buy it.
Or Phil Scott. So the area we were talking about, the 11,712 acres is on an east-west between the east border of Gold Canyon and the west border of Broader Regional Park, being developed but not yet open. And from a north-south standpoint, on the north edge by the Superstition Wilderness area, by US 60 on the south. Yes, there's a couple of little kinks here and here, but basically that's it. Except for this 40 acres, pretty much in the middle. This is Broader Road. It's all Arizona State Trust land. The answer to the first part of the question is yes. Arizona State Trust land can be conserved, but there are no sweetheart deals. According to the state constitution, if it's sold, it has to be auctioned. And it cannot be sold for less than appraised price. And the appraised price cannot include the fact that it's going to be conservation rather than development or something else. You have to pay market value. The appraisal hasn't been done, so we don't know what that would have cost. But nearly all, there was going to be a little development along the Broad Road, but nearly all the rest of that north part of that segment, some 3,600 acres, was going to be conserved. If it's sold at the same price that the nearly 2,800 acres recently sold to Horton south of Apache Junction, I think that calculates out to about $324 million just for the conservation land. So we might have been able to get all that conserved at the corporate expense. Did Salt find that tempting? We also had not officially reacted to that. But I'm on tape as having said the board did take a vote. We weren't going to make it public until very close to the deadline. Before the deadline came, the whole thing was withdrawn, apparently because Texas offered them a better deal than we had. Now, we don't know what the appraisal would have been. Maybe it would have been half that. Well, that would only have been about $164 million. So when people tell me, well, why don't we conserve this down here? I think I'm on board, and so is Salt. How?
Thank you. We have time for one more question that needs to be asked. Anybody have that one more question that has not yet been asked? Question rather than a rhetorical statement, if you will.
I'm just wondering why Gold Canyon, Salt, and Adobe committees have not gotten together. Because I feel like we have a lot of chiefs and very few Indians going around. I mean, you're all fighting for the same type of, what are we going to do about the area? Why can't the three different organizations come together as well?
Okay, I can claim part Native American Indian ancestry, if you will, so I include myself in the body from which you speak. As a long-time 26-year member of Adobe, I have always been an active person within that membership. As part of that, the first thing I did after the meeting 2 years ago at the Methodist Church is I walked across Kings Ranch Road to the Best Western Hotel where my colleagues were meeting, and I reported on what had transpired at the meeting there with Supervisor Todd House then. And I was immediately rebutted by Glenn Wall, who said, "We speak for Gold Canyon." I then said, well, eventually I think we all will be speaking with one voice from Gold Canyon. We have offered not just spoken invitations, we've sent written invitations to Mr. Wall and Adobe. And the result has been, yeah, we'll meet. We met once, thanks to Supervisor Surdy hosting the meeting. Since then, you've been prime more so than I have, because I was removed from their mailing list. But I understand from others who do receive the newsletter and messages from Adobe that they are opposed to the process. That's twice that they have publicly said, we oppose the process for consideration of the major amendment to the comprehensive land plan. And more recently, we're opposed to the process of the survey being conducted. I don't know what else, ma'am, we can do to extend an invitation. But we agree with you. We think the Homeowners Alliance, the Gold Canyon Chamber of Commerce, Gold Canyon Strong, all organizations are welcome to be part of what we are attempting to do. Again, I'm reminded of a humorous philosopher who said, you know, everybody wants to clean up the world, but nobody wants to do the dishes. Well, we, Gold Canyon Community Inc., are doing the dishes, and we're welcoming others to join us in the process.
Well, not just the groups, because we've been here 50 years, and we feel like we're left out a lot of the times and stuff. So that's why I was wondering why we had not gotten together, because it is about all of us together, not just our own little sections. I mean, we're all, you know, fighting this, but we're all just a little bit of a symptom of a bigger problem that we need to address. And as far as the census, if you want people to get a better census, then you have everybody to participate in it and not run the census taker out of the yard and treat them like they're trying to rip them off or something.
Yeah, that's very good advice. And that's a good note to end on. We again extend an invitation for everybody to be engaged. You can go directly to Supervisor Surdy. He's a very welcoming official. He will hear me when I disagree with him. I go and knock on his door. And I say, you know, I've got a disagreement with you. May I speak with you? And he opens the door. He's open. And all of us have an obligation to express what we want in our community. Doesn't mean that any of us are promised that what we wish is going to come true, but work for it. Let's all get together and work for it. I'm a basically optimistic person, having been raised in copper mining camp down the road of Miami under some pretty strict situations during the Great Depression. I get involved because I want to see our community all flourish and do better and enjoy a better quality of life. So thank you for your exhortation. Meeting is adjourned.